Hello everyone and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts, my channel here on YouTube where I talk about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily and today's video is part 3 of going through my shawl whips to decide if I should keep them or rip them out. In case you missed parts 1 and 2, I will link them in the description box below, but essentially I was feeling like I had a ton of unfinished knitting projects lying around, and so I have been doing this series where I go through them and decide if realistically I think I will finish them someday, or if I think I should cut my losses and just rip them out. So in the month of November, I went through all of my sweater projects. And then in the month of December, I have been going through all of my shawl projects. So in total, I had 18 shawl projects. So parts 1 and 2 go through 6 projects a piece. And today is part 3, where I will be going through the final 6 shawl projects that I have had sitting in my project pile. As I've done previously, I will show you the project, talk about what the pattern is, what the yarn is, if I remember when I started working on it, why I stopped working on it, and then we're gonna make a decision as to whether or not to finish it. So without further ado, let's get started. The first pattern that I'm going to show you today is probably one of the more iconic knitting patterns to have come out over the last several years, and that is the Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. And I'm in the middle of a row, but here is where I am at. So I have already knit a Find Your Fade. I made one pretty soon after that pattern. It came out in some more earth tone colors, and I wear that shawl a lot. I really like the size of it. It's a massive, massive shawl, and that's what I like. And I always wanted to make another one. And so eventually I saw Hedgehog Fibres, which is, this yarn is Hedgehog Fibres Skinny Singles, and I will put all of the colorway names in the description. I'm not going to go through all of them today, but Hedgehog Fibres released kits in the original Find Your Fade colors. So if you go look at Andrea Mowry's pattern page, her original sample was knit in this yellow to red fade. And I always really loved that color palette. It's really bold, not my normal choice, but I thought it was so stunning and just like kind of busy and crazy and everything that I don't typically tend to like, but I was just really drawn to it. So I saw that they were selling kits and I decided to buy one, and I cast on my second version. I started this in January 2019 was the first or the earliest picture I could find on my Instagram. And I have gotten, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I am on the 4th color, and there are 7 different colors that are used in this shawl, and I have no idea why I stopped working on it. Probably got distracted by something else. This is gonna be a keep for me. I still really enjoy this. Again, this is one of my most worn shawls, the one that I've already finished, and I just like the idea of having this beautiful pop of color, especially maybe paired with a black shirt like I'm wearing today. I think it's really pretty. So this is gonna be a keep. And yes, very excited to finish this one. All right, this next one I think falls into the category of I'm going to keep it because ripping it out seems like an impossible task. Here's this shawl. Oh, it's so pretty. So this is, and I had to write it down, this is the Happy Place shawl by Nadia Cretin-Lechenne. I'm probably not saying that correctly. I'll have put it on the screen. And I started this in July of 2018, so quite some time ago. And I knit this out of a Homespun house, yarns in the Fresh Sheets colorway and the Rosegold colorway. And the reason this would be very hard to frog is you can probably tell that I did hold it with a mohair. So frogging mohair is not fun, especially when you've got all of these different color changes. Holding it up, I do think it's really pretty. My concern with this shawl is purely based on size. It is small. I think I've mentioned in one of the other video parts that I've done is that I think from here on out I am going to avoid like too skein shawls. I have knit quite a few and I just don't gravitate towards them. They're too small. When I'm looking at a shawl, I want something that's in the like 1,000 to 2,000 yard range. Like anything less than 1,000 yards is too small for my liking, to be frank. This is really, really pretty though. And it is very, very soft. So yeah, so this right here is the bottom point. It's knit from side to side. Very similar construction to that Find Your Fade I just showed you, where you start at this point and then you increase and then you kind of close this gap here. And then there is going to be an extra border on the edge, so it might not be like too small. But I am going to finish it. Maybe I'll gift it to someone. I mean, this is super pretty. I love these colors together. I think it's like very feminine and soft, and I think anyone would be happy to get this. So we'll see. I will finish it and kind of see how big it is and if I'm grabbing it, and if not, perhaps I'll give it as a gift. So this is also a keep, mostly because I don't know what else to do with it. So yeah. Up next is the Coast to Coast wrap by Alexandra Tavel. And here is how far I got. I could not find any pictures of this on Instagram, so I have no idea when I started it. I want to say maybe 3 years ago is when I would estimate that I started this. And I really love this pattern. It's just this big graphic wrap. It uses mosaic stitching and, mosaic color work. And it creates all of these like really neat lines. I think it's really fun. I am gonna frog this one. This is another one where I don't feel like I'm very far. and I would rather rip it out and start it again someday when I am ready to come back to it and have it be a fresh new project, and just kind of get it out of my pile, out of sight, out of mind. And then someday I do plan to revisit this one and knit it. I think this pattern is really fun. I am using a variety of Lion brand yarns, which is what was called for in the pattern. I know Alexandra Tavel does a lot of patterns out of Lion brand, so they do become more of an affordable option. But yes, I really love this one. I do plan on finishing it someday, but I am gonna rip this out. And then yeah, when I decide to start it again, it'll be fresh and new and exciting, instead of picking up an old whip. For some reason, I just like don't want to work on my old projects. It's much better to rip them out and start them over again. Like for whatever reason, that like really invigorates me and is way more motivating to me. So yeah, this one's getting ripped. So this next one has a bit of a story behind it, and I feel it necessary to share with you. So I started graduate school in 2015, so over 7 years ago. And when I started grad school, I asked my friend, Carolyn. Carolyn's one of my dearest friends, but she's also an English teacher. And I asked her if she would proofread my like different papers and, you know, portfolios and all of the things that I was writing for grad school, because she's really good at editing things. And she agreed to it, and I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I said, I'll knit you a shawl in exchange for your help with proofreading my papers. And so at the time, I started this shawl for her, and I can't remember what the pattern is or what the pattern was, but it was a lace shawl, so like physical lace out of a lace weight yarn. And I absolutely hated working on it. I really struggled through that shawl for a while. And it was very complicated lace. I felt like I had to like really focus on it, and I just did not enjoy knitting that shawl. And then on top of that, I felt like it was lace weight yarn, and it just like felt like a negligee of shawls. Like it just didn't cover anything. Like it wasn't gonna keep anyone warm. And so like not only did I not like it, but I didn't feel like it was very functional. It was like very holey, very light, like definitely more of a decorative shawl than something that would keep anyone warm. But the point is that I really persisted and kept going with that shawl for a while. And so I graduated grad school in 2017. So I was in school for 2 years. Carolyn proofread all of my papers. She held up her end of the bargain. And, you know, come graduation day and several years after that, I could not bring myself to finish this shawl I had started for her. And at one point, I decided I'm just gonna scrap it. I'm not gonna finish the shawl. I'm gonna make her something completely new. And so I started this. And it's very fun, much more functional. This is the Fading Point by Joji Locatelli. And if you're familiar with the construction of this shawl, you start at one end and you knit a triangle, and then eventually it levels out into a rectangle. And then you do the other half the exact same, and then you fill in these triangles here. So you end up with this kind of shape in the middle, like kind of an X shape, and it fades. And it is lovely. So I've got the first half done, And then I also have started the second half. So I'm a decent way through, and I started this I went and looked it up. I started this shawl in August of 2020, so about 2 years ago is when I decided to pivot and change my plans, and I still haven't finished. So we are going on 7 years since the start of grad school, and Carolyn still does not have a shawl, and she asks me about it all the time. And I don't know, I suck. Is there really any other explanation? She did her job, and I offered a payment, and I have not followed through. So this yarn, I haven't said the yarn yet. This is a fade kit I purchased from Long Dog Yarns. And I do think this is maybe one of the prettiest things I've ever seen. It's just so perfect, from that light yellow to this electric purple. And I need to finish this one. This is a keep. I don't know what else to say. I owe my friend a shawl, and I feel bad every time I look at it that I haven't finished it and given it to her. So this is a keep. Carolyn, I know you watch this. I'm so sorry. Anyways, keeper, Find Your Fade, or not Find Your Fade, Fading Point by Andrea Mowry. And this is a gift. So I'm gonna finish it. Not only is it a gift, it's a payment. There was a trade that happened, and I have not paid the piper. So, yes. This next one is a more recent unfinished project. I've talked about it on the channel before. I have posted about it on Instagram, and this one is gonna get frogged because I don't like it. This is the Twists and Turns Mystery Knit Along, which was Stephen West's mystery knit along this year. I started this in October of this year, 2022. And I got to clue number 2 and decided that I didn't like it. So I stopped working on it, and I'm gonna rip it out. I do really like this yarn combination. I think these 2 yarns, so both of these are Hedgehog fibers, and then the orange is a Madeline Tosh. Yeah, I hated working on this shawl. The finished shawl is okay. The finished pattern has been out for a while now, so hopefully you've seen it. It does look a little bit like a superhero emblem to me. And, you know, that's the whole thing with the mystery knit along. Like, it's fun. You might not like it. It's gonna be a little unique. We'll say Stephen West's patterns are always super unique. So it was less about the pattern and more about, I hated knitting on this. Like, everything about this shawl was so tedious, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was not enjoying it. This shawl filled me with an irrational rage. Like, I just was mad at it all the time. So I decided to stop working on it, and I am gonna save the yarn. I think I'm gonna make a Marley shawl by Andrea Mowry out of this white and red, and then I'll find something else to do with the orange. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. And again, more than the pattern not being for me, it was I just did not enjoy working on it. And yes, I'm gonna rip it out. I'm gonna reclaim the yarn and I'm gonna move on with my life. We'll see how I feel next October. I don't know if I'm gonna participate in the West Knits Mystery Knit Along anymore. It is fun to get the clues every week, but I've never finished one of those projects. I'm always like not majorly thrilled. I do think it would be best to just not do it anymore. The funness is not outweighing the, I don't know, the disappointment. Like, this wasn't disappointing. Again, I just hated working on it. I hated working on it. I'm sorry, Steven. This was so tedious. Everything about this shawl was so tedious. So, I'm gonna rip this one out. Thank you for listening to my rant. Yeah. I think, yeah, from here on out, I am going to wait until the whole mystery shawl is released, and then I'll decide if I want to work on it. I don't know if the excitement of the clues is worth it to me anymore, to be honest. It's just not my style. It's not my style. So, all right, I feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm gonna move on. So, ripping this one out. Last up today is the mystery knit along from Stephen West from 2020, which I also still have not finished. So if you're keeping track at home, I went through the mystery knit along from 2021 in last episode, last video, and then now we've got 2020 and 2022 today. None of them are done, but this is the Slipstravaganza. Again, mystery knit along from 2020 from Stephen West, and I have to be careful because I'm gonna lose the ends of this shawl off the edges of my needles. But yes, I am on the border. Let me see if I can spread this out a little bit. I am on the border of this shawl. I'm gonna finish this one. Again, I don't think I will ever wear this. We'll just kind of treat it like an art piece, put it over a chair. It's something interesting to look at. At this point, I don't think a lot of this yarn is salvageable. There's just so many cuts, and you know, if you've made this shawl, you'll know that each of these triangles is, the yarn is cut, so there's 2 ends per triangle. There's just no saving this yarn. So I might as well finish this one. Again, I'm on the border. There's not a whole ton of knitting left. And yeah, I sometimes refer to this as my ice cream shawl. I feel like the colors are, you know, you've got chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and mint. I do not remember what yarn I used for this. I will look it up and put it in the show notes below. And yes, it is getting a little blown out when I hold it up close to the camera, so let me hold it back a little bit for you here. I have similar feelings about this one as I do to the other West Knits Mystery Knit Alongs. Again, I'm gonna finish this one just because it's so close to being done. But yeah, not like super excited to work on it. If I could salvage the yarn, I probably could, or I probably would. And yes, ultimately, like, this is a personal problem. I am so boring and simple in the things that I like to wear and make, and so I think Stephen West is just too cool for me. So if you love his patterns, you are cool too. This is a me problem. So I don't want to sound so negative. They are very amazing, unique patterns. It's just not the right fit for me. At least not most of them. So that's kind of my problem, is like Stephen West patterns, it's more about the process with those patterns. They're really fun, exciting to work on. But as a finished object, I just don't think I will get much use out of them. And I am trying, at least for the time being, to focus more on things that I will wear more frequently. And this is just not it. So, gonna finish this one up, but yeah. I'm gonna have to like really power through it. I think it's gonna be a bit of a struggle to finish because I'm not super excited about it, but that is what it is. And that is everything. So again, this is the final part of my shawl series. We've looked at every single unfinished shawl I have, and so I just went back and looked at my numbers, and so I started with 18 unfinished shawl projects and I am ending with 11. So I will be frogging 7 of those 18 projects down to 11. So that's a pretty significant amount of things out the door, which is exciting. Yes. It feels very nice, especially, you know, we're about to head into a new year. And so just clearing some things off the needles, getting a bit of a fresh start, a fresh perspective on some of my old projects, is a really nice thing. So thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave it a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, etc., etc. And I will see you all next week. We're going to be doing my December makes episode. So I'll be talking about everything that I worked on in the month of December. So yes, some exciting stuff coming your way. So I will see you all again next week. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, have a great end to your 2022. Bye, everyone.